transitioning to cloud, and we hear that okay, we have all our business running on cloud. What do they mean by that? So they mean that they are installing some EC2 instances. Okay, so creating some EC2 instances, creating storages, creating VPCs, subnets, right? So defining their whole infrastructure. They have their own private cloud on public cloud. Okay, all these things they do, and they get up their work done. For example, any of the one company like who are into building a website. Okay, so website development company. So what they do to develop a website, they would need database, they would need S3 bucket, they would need EC2 instances, right? And then they happily build a website, and whatever additional software they would need, JDK, JRE, or all that. So if they're using Java, so front end HTML, JSS, CSS, okay. So everything, so all that, whatever framework they would be needing, servlets for as a controller they would need. So all that they would be using, and then they would be designing. And for all these things, there are like hundreds of employees who are working, and all those hundreds of employees, they will be having access to AWS, and all their access privileges, everything is controlled using IAM service, right? So step by step, when you try to understand it from the perspective that how companies are working, what they are working to get their work done, what AWS services they are using, right? So all these things will come into picture. Now we are at that stage, okay, of our classes where we will be looking into how to secure the infrastructure any organization have built on AWS. Okay, so till now we have seen how on AWS, how we build infrastructure, how we use different services to achieve our goals. Okay, how we spin EC2 instance, how we design our own network, VPCs, gateways, NAT gateways, transit gateways. Right, so all those things we have seen. Now, how is that I make my infrastructure secure? Okay, so I have, for example, I have 100 employees in my company. Mine is again a web development company, and like web hosting I do for my clients. Now on AWS, I am using EC2 instance, I am using S3 buckets, right? I am using IAM, okay, and I have built like hundreds of websites using for so all these 100 employees, they have built hundreds of websites, they have built database, everything. But should we stop there? Okay, so it is like I have constructed an amazing commercial building. Okay, I have fixed cameras on each floor, and I have fixed doors for each shops on each floors, and there is a key and lock I have bought in, right? So all the construction is done, opening is done. I've sold all individual stores to the people, for some of the textile guys who want to come in, and they wanted to set up some clothing shop, and some person related to grocery, some person cake, right? So I've sold them my building, and they are using for their respective work. Okay, now should I stop there? Okay. So what if somebody, like some unauthorized person, like some XYZ person comes in and tries to, threaten the shopkeeper, cake, the baker. So he enters into cake shop and he threatens him, shows him some knife and says, okay, give me all your cakes. Or what if some person just goes into some clothing shop and just try to pull out all the clothes that they have arranged? Yeah. So yes, so there is a camera, so there is a security, there is a door, there is a what is it, key for that door. So for each shops in that commercial building, okay. So 5 floors of commercial building, each floor is having three, for example, three shops. Okay, those 5 floors, and each shop is having its own key, its own lock, its own doors, right? Its own CCTV cameras for that floor also they have, for that shop also they have, right? But if I do not have a security guard, okay, so if I do not appoint a security guard and tell him his role, explain him about his roles and responsibilities, then it is of not much use. So I'm always at a risk. So there is a baker. So the cake shop guy will take care of his shop only. He will not worry what is happening in the other shop, right? So he is busy baking his own cakes. The guy who is having clothing store. So clothing store, what if some person gets in and threatens the shopkeeper and then says that, okay, give me all the money you have, and tries to put in all the clothes and run away, and have a jewelry shop there. Okay, so one person is doing the jewelry sales. So gold shop. So what if some person enters and tries to rob, thief enters and tries to rob it, right? So all these things can be controlled if I have a security guard. Sorry, so if I appoint a security guard, at least the risk is reduced. If a security guard checks, okay, are you authorized person? So do you have a valid ID card to enter into that shop? So who are you? So are you a customer? So have I seen you before? So bag scanning is done at the entrance. If you see the malls, metro stations, and all. Okay, so where they would be, bag scanning is done. So are you carrying any dangerous weapons? So all those things will be evaluated. So now just constructing a building, selling a building, having fixing cameras, doors, good quality locks, keys is not just sufficient for managing the whole security of my building. So I want to take care of additional things. I want to put in a scanner, bag scanner at the bottom ground floor. Whoever is entering that building should scan their bag and then go, right? Or I can appoint a security guard to check for their Aadhaar card or whatever, to see to it so that who they are, right? So all additional things I will have to take care as owner of the building to manage security of my building. Similarly, till now we have done all this AWS, we have done used all the services and everything. Now we are at that stage where we will need to check about the security. How can I secure this whole infra? Again, security, two people will take care, one AWS will take care, one I have to take care. So whatever AWS, we have seen this shared responsibility model. And in that security that I have to take care, okay, of my environment, there are multiple things. At EC2 instance level security group, I have to create IAM, I have to tighten the policies, right? So S3, I have to encrypt the data and store it. Right, so all these additional things I will be taking care. So in addition to that, I want to install the scanner in my building. Similarly, I want to have somebody who can watch, who can keep watching my infrastructure all the time for any vulnerabilities. For I want to keep track of who is coming in into my building. So similarly, I want to keep track of all the users, IAM users in my account. Okay, so on AWS. So I will be using CloudTrail, and I want to check for any of the vulnerabilities that I have. So I will use guard duty service from AWS. Okay, so AWS has built core security services also with other services. They have built and published core security services like CloudWatch, CloudTrail, Guard Duty, Security Hub, AWS Detective. So n number of security services they have built. In that, majorly used and very known useful services we will be studying here in our classes. Okay, clear on why do we need security services? All right. So now we will be starting with guard duty. So guard duty is again one of the security service that AWS has built and given, and it is up to you whether you want to use it or not. Like in my building, I mean there are vendors who are building these scanning machines, bag scanning machines. There are vendors in the market. Okay, so it is up to me whether I want my building to be safe and secure in every aspect. Then I will have to go purchase the bag scanner and install it in my building. Okay, and I will have to go search for a security guard, and I will have to verify all his details and appoint him. So it's up to me. There are things in the market which would help me to safeguard my building. Similarly, in AWS also, to safeguard my or to secure my infrastructure, AWS has built a security services. It is up to me whether using that security service will make any difference to me or not. Like I'm a normal user of AWS. For demo purpose, I use AWS.
Okay, for teaching purpose, I use AWS, and I don't need all guard duty, CloudTrail enabled. So I don't want to spend additional money. So my nature of business is for demoing purpose. Okay, for teaching purpose, learning and development purpose. So I do not want to enable guard duty. So it's fine, right? So similarly, any organizations who have set up their infrastructure and doing business critical applications they are running, they would want guard duty to be enabled. Guard duty to be enabled, so they would be concerned about the security of their infrastructure, so they can make use of this service. However, AWS is developed and it is published there. If you want to use, pay for the service you are using and use it. And what you are using, what type of nature of business you are into. So if you are hosting your website, then use WAF. Okay, web application firewall. So use a shield. Okay, so which will help you protect from DDoS. So guard duty, it's again up to you. Do you want to use this? Or do you want to make your environment more secure? Go ahead and use guard duty. Right? So CloudTrail. So CloudTrail. If you want to use CloudTrail, if you feel that there is a business need to use it, you can use that. So now we will be studying few such services in our classes. We are starting with guard duty. So as the name itself indicates, guarding your infrastructure against a threat. Because as and when we move forward, you will get confused. There is CloudWatch, there is CloudTrail, there is guard duty, right? So each of these services do each of the things. Okay, do one specific thing. So guard duty is responsible for detecting threats in your environment. Okay, so it is a threat detection service. So is a threat detection service scoped at region level. So each region to be monitored, guard duty need to be enabled. So for example, I have some of my infrastructure set up in Mumbai region. So for Mumbai region, I will have to enable guard duty. So this guard duty will monitor Mumbai region only. And if I have some machines or some infrastructure, part of my infrastructure or backup infrastructure being set up in North Virginia region, then if I want that infrastructure to be monitored, then I will have to enable my guard duty in North Virginia region also. Okay, so this is the region specific service. It continuously monitors and analyze AWS workloads. Okay, monitors and analysis it does for AWS workload, that is data in S3. AWS accounts for threat or malicious activities. So workloads, AWS workloads, that is my EC2 instances. So data in S3. Okay, whatever data I'm storing in S3 bucket, it monitors. So guard duty will not monitor each and everything that I have put up in my infrastructure. So it monitors workload, that is S3 EC2 instance, and it monitors my IAM accounts also. Okay, so AWS accounts for threats or some malicious activities that might be happening. So it monitors various log sources. Okay, so when I say various log sources, so how does it detect? How will it know that there is a threat? Okay, so I have installed a bag scanning machine. So I have to insert a bag only then, and I have to turn on the power, the connection, connect it to the laptop or a system, and then when I click on scan, only then the bag will be scanned in the scanner. Right? Similarly, guard duty also it checks the logs. Depending on the logs, only it will get to know whether there is any malicious activity happening in the environment or not. Okay, so it monitors various different types of logs like VPC flow logs, okay, DNS logs, cloud trail logs. So cloud trail is it's again we have a separate PPT, separate class for that. Okay, cloud trail events, S3 events. So logs from these data sources it collects, and then it has something called as inbuilt threat intel tool. Okay, it verifies all these logs against the threat intel tools and anomalies to see whether there is any malicious activity happening or not. Okay, so it uses ML, machine learning, anomaly detection, and integrated threat intel to identify threats. So For example, in VPC flow logs, it is collecting all the logs from my VPC, and then it sees that there is one IP address which is being contacted, and then it tries to check the reputation of that IP address, and it from the integrated threat intel tool, and it finds that so this is a malicious IP address, so that means there is a threat. Then it creates a finding. Okay, findings are nothing but like your alerts. Okay, so it creates a finding and then it assigns a severity to that finding. Okay, whether it is highly severe or at a medium level or at a low level. So it assigns a severity also. Okay, so guard duty, it is some intelligent service which is made up of, which has its integrated threat intel tool, which works using machine learning, okay, and to detect any of the anomalies that are present, any of the threats that the environment might be having. Okay, so this is about guard duty. And then, so guard duty continuously analyze cloud trail flow logs, API calls to the resources. So any of the API calls that are being made, so user logged in, there will be an API call which will be going into the backend, because AWS is a Amazon Web Services. So when I say web services, when I do everything from the browser, okay, so I'm sitting somewhere in Delhi location, and I'm trying to access Mumbai data center. So what happens in the backend? There will be API, application program interface. There will be API call, nothing but your URL call. Okay, so in your URL http://www.google.com/ whenever you submit a form, so all the form details will be part of your HTTP request head and body. So that is nothing but your API call. Okay, so now here guard duty continuously analyzes, it does analysis of the user, whoever is trying to log in. So backend, all the APIs for that user will get recorded and will be monitored. And there might be like, again, machine learning is included. It checks, okay, one user, Tom, his working hours, so daily, so far for last 2 months, last 3 months, he used to log in at say 10 a.m. 10 a.m. Okay, and suddenly he starts logging in at 4 a.m. And this machine learning, it is like now it is keeping track of all the APIs. Suddenly it sees that why is that user suddenly start logging in at 4 o'clock, so it creates a finding. Okay, because it is having that anomaly detection machine learning capabilities. Okay, if there is any bad IP that is being contacted, then yes, it would be alerted using the threat intel tool. And if there is any new software that gets installed, yes, it generates a finding. And if some user related activity, like so far, one user Tom, he was having read only access to S3. Now suddenly that user Tom is trying to delete S3. So user Tom is trying to delete EC2 instance. So why is he? So is he really have got a permission to do that, or he has done some, illegitimately he is trying to access and then trying to delete some infrastructure items, right? So all these things, all this intelligence is fed into this guard duty, and this guard duty keeps monitoring the infrastructure for all such activities or all such things. Okay, so guard duty continuously analyze cloud trail flow logs again to monitor everything about the user activities. So guard duty can only guard the AWS service, but cannot remedy it on its own. Okay, like your SIM tool. So again, do not get confused here with a SIM tool. So SIM tool, all different types of data sources, you write correlation rule, indexing, everything you do. But here, nothing of that sort is done. So it collects the log, it runs it, compares it against the threat intel tool that is integrated, and it generates the finding. Can it remediate? No, it cannot remediate. Okay, it cannot remediate. Does it give you additional details? To an extent, yes, it gives you additional details. What you can do, you can integrate this with your SIM. Okay, you can write lambda functions to automate. But however, your guard duty alone cannot remediate. It just alerts you. Okay, so it can only create an event when any anomaly is found. Now, when threat is discovered, finding is generated, finding is assigned the severity level. So alert gets generated, alert severity level is generated. So guard duty can check for unusual events like below. So what all it can check? Backdoor. So if there is any command center IP being contacted, okay, it will check for that. Any compromise has been happened. So unauthorized access. Okay, so there is the new user gets created. Okay, and he is not having any authorization because by default everything is blocked on AWS. Now he is trying to access EC2 instance. So one or the other things he is continuously trying to access. So it could be legitimate case where he is a new user but permissions have not yet been assigned. Or it could be the hacker who by illegitimately he got access to AWS and he got created an account for himself. Now he's trying to see if he's having access to any of the resources. Right? So unauthorized access. A record. So learning about the target is in sometimes port scanning is done. So which is typically all these hackers would use all these tools to see if there is any vulnerability, they will try to exploit that. So reconnaissance is studying about the target to check what ports are open, what ports are not open. By that they will try to see if database port is open. That means that server might be a DB server. Okay, database might be installed and then they try to compromise that server. So reconnaissance, studying about the target. And if new software is installed, so then there will be a finding that gets generated. And account compromised. So if any of the account is compromised, and that's what. So Tom is the legitimate user, and suddenly 4 o'clock he is trying to log in and he's trying to delete some of the files or some of the EC2 instances, anything it could be. Okay, so when account gets compromised, so all such activities would happen, and your infrastructure, AWS infrastructure will be guarded against all such activities if you enable guard duty. Okay, so now how it works? So we have data sources, we have CloudTrail events, we have S3 data plane, we have DNS logs, we have VPC logs. So all these logs are collected and then they are passed to this system where threat detection is enabled. Okay, so indicators of compromise are mentioned here. So all the logs will be passed against the threat intel tools to see if there is any threat. And also logs will be checked for any anomalies. Okay. For example, unusual behavior. So Tom account till today he only used to read EC2 instance. But suddenly he is trying to create EC2 instance. Suddenly he is trying to delete EC2 instance. So all that anomalies it would be detected using your guard duty. And now once the logs are passed through this, a finding gets generated. If anything is related to it finds, if it sees any of these things, then there will be a findings that gets generated and it will rate whether it's high, it is medium, it is low. Okay. And further actions will be taken, whether you can forward those findings onto Amazon Detective Service or you can forward it to a security hub where it's a centralized hub that collects logs from all other security services. Okay, or using an event bridge. Okay, using Amazon event bridge, you can create an alert, you can remediate, you can integrate that with SIM. So using event bridge, you can integrate some Lambda or SIM solutions and forward all these findings, and then you can try to remediate it. Okay, so this is how your guard duty works. So again, guard duty generates the finding high, medium, and low. CloudWatch event, it can be even forwarded to CloudWatch event, and CloudWatch events, CloudWatches, it will keep on watching your cloud infrastructure. Again, there is a separate class for CloudWatch. So AWS Lambda function you can automate. So you can integrate the partner solution, any of the SIM solutions you have, or automated responses, automated functions you can write in the Lambda to fix any of the issues. Or you can integrate with the chat box where the security analyst can sit and chat. Okay, so this is how you do your automated responses. Now, so guard duty, what are the use cases? So it is centralized continuous security monitoring across multiple AWS accounts. Okay, so multiple regions, you will have to enable a guard duty to that region, and however in that region a number of accounts we have, all those accounts guard duty will continuously monitor for any threats. So that is one of the use cases. So quickly and accurately detect compromised accounts. So it is very accurate in terms of detecting if there is any account that has been compromised because of the built-in anomaly detection system. By SOC analysts and prioritize responses to threats depending on severity level. So it can notify, so it can send emails or it can send a notification to SOC analysts saying that okay, so there is a finding with high severity, so look into this. We'll give some information. Automates remediation through various integrations. So you can even, so on its own, yes, it cannot remediate, it cannot handle, it cannot solve the problem, but it can integrate with other tools which will help in problem solving. Okay, so automates remediation through various integrations with other AWS services. Supplies only for the analysis performed by guard duty. So however you have integrated with SIM, you will not be charged whatever is done on SIM. So you will be charged only what is done till this guard duty. In guard duty, whatever analysis, whatever findings it generates, only for that you will be charged. Further automation function you write, remediation you write, you will not be charged. So operates independent of EC2 instances. Again, you need not have dependency on EC2 instance. EC2 instance performance is not affected by guard duty. So if you enable guard duty, EC2 performance is not enabled, and this is not dependent on EC2 instance in any way. Okay. So it can send again email notification, alert notification to the users on the compromise and enable them to take quick action. Notification basically, security analyst notification will be sent to take proper action if there is any threat that is detected or that gets detected. Okay. So logs or findings can be forwarded to S3 for further analysis and compliance purposes. So again, all the logs from guard duty can be forwarded into S3 and for further machine learning they can be saved. So by default, we have 90 days of logs storage capacity capability in guard duty. So guard duty, all the log monitoring it does, it stores those logs for 90 days. Okay. Alright, so we will stop here for today, and tomorrow we will be looking into the